Okay, this is going to be kind of a recap of day 2 of printing with the Phrozen. Here, let's walk out to the shop. This whole building is the shop, but this is the dirty part of the shop. So here's the Phrozen Sonic Mini 8K, and right now I have it doing a longer print. It should be about a 5.5 hour print of the Rat Fink and Sphinx that I mixed together and put on Thingiverse a year or two ago, called the Rat Sphinx. Just for fun, I thought I'd do something unrelated. But my point is, I brought the whole setup out here to the shop like I said I was going to, but I didn't gonna wait for warmer weather. So this morning when I set up, it was 40 degrees out here, which is almost 5 Celsius if you're in that land. And now we're kind of in the mid-afternoon, and we're going to take a look here and see what we're up to. According to that, we're up to 48 degrees, which would be about 10.3 Celsius. So it has warmed up a little, but it's still cold. The resin was thick like thin peanut butter or super thick pancake batter, whichever way you want to go. It's pretty thick. I didn't have much hope for it working, but actually we're going to look at 3 different sets of prints I've done today, and I haven't had a failure yet. But of course the main thing of interest was trying to resolve the Z height issue. So let's see. The first test I did is I brought out this same little, well, it's almost the same little ratchet wheel file that I had done on my first videos on day 1. The only difference is here is the wheel, instead of supposed to being 12 millimeters tall, this one's designed to be 10. And this is I'm getting close again. This is the added support part that I added, and I added it right in my 3D program where I design the part. I'm using Design Spark Mechanical. So I just added it to the part, and then I'll just use a Dremel to cut that off, which is what I did. Here's one where I cut that part off. And it should be, of course, exactly 10. And as you can see, it's not. It's, what, about 9.8. Just a little bit off. And with these supports on, the whole thing should have been exactly 15. And here you can see it's basically 14. If I can get the whole thing in camera. There we go. So it was still off. So what I've just done is I've taken the file, and in their slicer, the choo-choo box they make you use, you can adjust scale, of course. So I went ahead and told the Z height only to be 1 millimeter bigger. And so now it's sitting at 15.15, and if I just go for the part I'm interested in, which should be 10, it's sitting at 10.5. So now it's just a smidgen too big. So what this means is either the Z movement in the firmware in the printer is off by 0.06 steps or distance, or the choo-choo box, what do we want to say? They give you a setup to use you're supposed to put in, so that's the one I put in for that printer, for their resin, everything, their preset. So either their preset is wrong, or the machine has a firmware problem that's wrong on the Z height, and it's a small amount. It would be 0.066666 and on per millimeter of height, and that's why things aren't quite right mechanically. I don't know the best way to fix it. Just add a little extra height. I don't know. That's not the correct answer, of course. But when you're just doing like knickknacks and stuff, it isn't going to make any difference. It's a small enough amount off that everything's fine. I'm going to use the curing station here, my Anycubic curing station, as a rotator. I'm going to put that over the UV lights and then tell it to rotate. And then we'll just move in here and I'll get some external light on this. This was a test print that I did. As you can see, it's just beautiful. There's absolutely no layer lines. And the only flaw that happened on it is when I was blow drying it off with the air compressor, it blew it out of my hand and blasted it across the room and knocked the chunk off right there. So I had to, what I did was I put a little bit of resin on it and stuck it out in the sun and glued it back on with its own resin. See if we can get the light better on this. Here's the little thing that normally comes with, I guess a pawn for playing chess or something. I made it small, and everything's in there. The stair steps, the twirly vines, came out perfect, no failure. And then the strange little test thing that Phrozen gives you, and it says if you can get the lighting right. See, I can't even read that with my own eyeballs, but I think the camera might be picking it up. The text is all there, the holes, their cylinders. I guess it's some sort of little test plate you can print. These things are small. I mean, this is the end of your little finger small, and this little world thing that you can print for testing this kind of stuff out. It had some text on it too somewhere, if I remember right. See if we can get the camera and the lighting. I think there was some text clear down there. Let's see if we can get some light down there and see if the camera can pick it up. Because it's so itsy bitsy small. Can't get it that way. Well, and anyway, let's shut that down. It all seems to be working well even in the cold. So this was a cold test and a Z height test day, and I was surprised there were no failures. Everything stuck well. The big difference besides bringing everything out to the shop was that I removed that flex plate system that was on there, and I'm just printing directly on the build plate that comes with the Phrozen unit, and that's working great. And even with the resin thick like honey out here in the cold, haven't had a failure. That's working great. So the only issue that really needs to be resolved here is their Z height issue, because adding supports, adding rafts, all those things don't make any difference. There's still a Z height problem, and again, it's very minimal. It appears to be from this limited number of tests that I did on day 1 and day 2 that we are in fact talking about a 0.06 per millimeter squish, and that's not a whole lot, but it shouldn't be there. So I think their E steps are off either in the printer for the Z. It wouldn't be E steps, it would be Z steps. The height adjustment steps for the stepper motor are off in the printer, or the choo-choo box profile isn't right. I don't know which. But the only workaround I have right now is simply to add a little bit of extra height, unfortunately, to the parts. I don't like doing a workaround, but again, I fully understand it's a brand new product. It's going to have issues. Oh, another little thing. This is the Anycubic cleaning and cure station, which isn't big enough to hold the whole build plate from the Phrozen Mini sideways or vertically, but it will go in there at an angle. So I've got this little piece of wire, and I would show you, except it's running, but this fits into the handle part of the build plate, and it'll hold it in there at about a 45-degree angle without the wire basket in there, and won't hit the propeller at that angle. It holds it above, but the whole thing is submerged. So I can clean not only the build plate, but all the parts right in the smaller unit. So this is a wonderful buy. I'm very happy with the Anycubic curing and cleaning station. Definitely the most bang for your buck. Quality wise, I'm extremely happy with the 8K Mini as well. The only thing, of course, that needs to be resolved is their very slight Z problem, height, squishing. It seems to be consistent throughout the part. It isn't just the first few layers, or it doesn't appear to be anyway. And here you can see this thing is percolating along here. don't know if I can get close enough for the screen to see. It's still doing, what's it say, how many layers? 35 layers in out of 1,202 layers to go. I'm trying to remember, but I think this model might be sliced at 0.1 layer height, because I couldn't foresee any reason of needing the 0.05 that it was set at to begin with. So there it's doing an outline base. It's a hollow model, so it shouldn't take a lot of resin. And it does have a hole in the bottom, so I should be able to drain resin out. But you can see over here it says there's a 5 hours and 16 minutes. I'm only 16 minutes in. Layer number 38 of 1,202. And it just gives you the rough 3%. Then it should turn on here shortly, showing that it's doing that layer right there. And you can see it only is on for a couple of seconds. Then this whole thing is raised up just a little bit. Still going up, and now it's going back down. And that's what it's going to do for the next 5 hours. But there's your update on day 2. Pretty happy with everything. I know it's a new machine. Once somebody figures out whether the problem's in the firmware or in their slicer, that'd be great, because I'd love to see it get resolved so mechanical parts can be just put in and sliced and you don't have to screw around trying to guess how to make them right.